Are you not progressing on the drums as fast as you'd like? Maybe your practice sessions could use a little bit more structure and organization. Well, one of the simplest and most powerful tools for that is using a practice journal. And in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what a practice journal is, how to use one, the benefits, some common mistakes to avoid, and how to stay consistent so that you can get the most out of each and every practice session. Let's dive in. So, why does this matter? Well, a common mistake is to sit down at the drums and just start playing whatever. And although this can be useful in specific contexts, like practicing improvisation, generally, if you want to improve faster, you need structure and a clear approach to your practice. Especially if you're working on multiple topics, it's easy to forget what you practiced last time, what tempos you reached, and what you were focusing on, and a practice journal can solve this problem. Benny Greb talks about this in his book, Effective Practicing for Musicians. He says, "I can't do without it. I've benefited immensely from the habit of thinking on paper and keeping a written form. Over the last 20 years, I know exactly what I practiced, on what day, at what time, for how long, and how I did." And that's coming from an absolutely incredible drummer, and it really shows how powerful and simple a practice journal can be. So, what is a practice journal? A practice journal can be a diary, a notepad, some sheets of paper, or you can use digital options like Google Docs, spreadsheets, or an app on your phone, iPad, or computer. All of these work well, so just use whatever option suits you best. Okay, so now I want to talk about some benefits of using a practice journal. So number one is accountability and consistency. When you write down what you're working on, it creates a small layer of accountability. You can literally see whether you've been showing up or not. Even if you miss a day, having it written down makes it easier to get back on track. And over time, this helps build consistency, which is really where all the progress will come from. Number two, it lets you track progress over time. It's easy to forget how far you've come, especially when you're working on difficult material. Looking back through old entries can be a huge confidence boost. You might see that a few months ago your doubles were sitting at 80 BPM and now they're comfortably sitting at 110 BPM. Seeing that kind of visible progress helps keep you motivated and keep pushing forward. Number three, it lets you set clear goals. A lot of drummers waste time behind the kit deciding what to work on. But with a journal, your goals are already set. You can open up the journal and go, today I'm going to try and take this groove from 90 BPM to 100 BPM. Or I'm moving from exercises 3 and 4 to exercises 5 and 6. You're no longer guessing, you're following a clear, focused plan each time you sit down at the kit. So number four, we have identifying patterns. When you record your notes regularly, you start to notice trends in your playing. Maybe you always struggle with a certain coordination pattern, or you tend to rush 16th notes when going from soft to loud dynamics. A journal helps you spot these patterns so you can make adjustments and refine your practice approach. And number five, we have collecting ideas. Your practice journal can also become a catalogue of ideas, grooves, fills, or sticking patterns that pop up during your practice sessions. Instead of forgetting them, you can jot them down and revisit them later. Over time, this builds a personal library of drumming language that you can draw from when workshopping solos, improvising, creating exercises, or writing music. Alright, so now let's chat a bit about what to include in a practice journal. Here's what I recommend writing down for each session. Doesn't have to take long, but a few clear notes can make a big difference over time. First, the date and duration. Start with the basics. Write down the date and how long you practiced for. It sounds simple, but it's really useful for keeping track of how consistently you're showing up and how much time you're putting in. It also helps you look back and see patterns in your schedule, like which days or practice lengths you tend to get your best results from. Next, we have topics or exercises. List the main areas you're working on. This could be things like paradiddles, jazz independence, a groove you're developing, or a song you're learning for a gig. Having this written out gives you structure in your sessions and keeps you focused on specific goals, rather than just sort of brushing the surface of many areas in drumming. Next, we have tempo and practice notes. This is where the real progress tracking happens. Write down the tempo you reached for each exercise and add a few quick notes about how it felt. For example, doubles at 90 BPM, clean but still feels a little tight in the left hand. Over time, you'll be able to see where you've improved, what's feeling easier, and where you still need to focus your attention on. Number four, we have ideas. As I mentioned before, if something clicks during a session, maybe a cool sticking pattern, a feel idea, or an accent pattern that feels great, write it down straight away. These small ideas add up over time and can become your own creative vocabulary. You can always come back later and turn them into grooves, soloing ideas, or even full-blown exercises. And lastly, we have goals for the next session. Before you pack up, just take 20 seconds to note down what you want to work on next time. It could be something like take paradiddles from 60 to 70 BPM, or start working on the bridge section of that tune. That way, when you sit down at the kit next time, you know exactly where to start, No time wasted thinking, what should I work on today? I've used many practice journals over the years, and every time I'm in a good habit of using a practice journal, my sessions feel clearer and more organized. Even if it's just a few lines at the end of each session, it really helps me retain what I've learned and where to pick up next time. So now I want to go over a few common mistakes that can make your practice journal less effective or even discourage you from using one altogether. Number one, writing too much. One of the biggest traps is turning your journal into an essay. You don't need to document every detail or thought, just capture the essentials. Focus on what actually made progress in your playing, what you worked on, how it felt, and what you want to improve next time. Keeping things short and to the point makes it way more likely that you'll stick with it long term. Number two, being too vague. A quick note like, practice for an hour, doesn't really help you. Instead, aim for specifics. For example, worked on double strokes at 90 BPM, felt solid but started getting a little uneven above 100 BPM. These kind of notes give you something real to track and reflect on next session. The more specific you are, the more useful your journal becomes. Third, we have making it a chore. If journaling starts to feel like homework, you'll want to stop doing it. So try to think of it as a short reflection, a way to lock in your progress before you walk away from the kit. It's your time to quickly think about what went well and what could have been better. When you approach it like a small win at the end of each practice session, it becomes a satisfying part of the routine rather than an obligation. Even 20 to 30 seconds at the end of each session can make a huge difference. And if daily entries feel like too much, then weekly or even fortnightly reviews can work too. The main thing is consistency, finding a routine that fits your practice schedule and keeps you on track to your goals. So now I want to share some thoughts about paper versus digital practice journals. And really there's no right or wrong answer, but when it comes down to it, it's whatever feels most natural and what's going to help you stay the most consistent. Here are a few things you might want to consider with both options. Let's start with paper. There's something about writing with pen and paper that feels immediate and personal. It's quick, tactile, and doesn't require any setup. You just grab a notebook, jot down a few thoughts, and you're done. There's also plenty of research suggesting that physically writing things down helps with memory and retention, and I found that to be true in my own practice. The process of writing it down seems to reinforce the information. The downside is that once you've written something, it's not as easy to reorganize or edit later. If you make a mistake, it can look messy, and you can't really search through your notes easy. So some pros are it's simple and distraction-free. It doesn't rely on battery or devices, feels more personal, and you can be as creative as you like with it, and it helps with mental focus and reflection. Some potential cons are it's harder to edit and reorganize notes, can get messy or disorganized over time, and there's no built-in search feature or backup if you happen to lose your journal. Now, when it comes to digital, the options opens up a lot here. You can use tools like Google Docs, spreadsheets, Notion, or even a notes app on your phone or tablet. The big advantage here is organization. You can easily search keywords like paradiddle and instantly pull up every single note you've made on paradiddles. You can also color code, tag, or link between sections if you want to take it a bit further. So it's great for people who like having things really neat, searchable, and backed up. On the other hand, working digitally can sometimes introduce distractions, notifications, app, and just the general temptation to start scrolling. You have to make sure that your device is charged, and sometimes the extra setup can make it feel less immediate and an extra thing to do rather than simply writing something down on pen and paper. So some digital pros are it's easily searchable and organized, it can sync across all your devices and stay backed up, it's great for long-term tracking and data analysis, and you can include things like links, recordings, or PDFs of exercises. Some potential cons are screen distractions can interrupt your focus, it requires power, updates, or internet access, can feel a lot less personal or less hands-on, and sometimes it's even slower to jot things down in the middle of a practice session if you have to log in or your device is switched off or the internet drops out. At the end of the day, both options are great. The key is to choose whichever one helps you stay consistent and on track towards your goals. If you have any tips for using a practice journal, drop them in the comments below, and I'd love to hear them, and it'd be great to share them with everyone. And if you want some tips on how to get more out of your practice sessions, then check out this video here on how to do that.